and welcome to my channel. This is day 2 of Junk Journal January, and the prompt is envelope. So I have a window envelope here, and that design that you see is a napkin that I just put on a silicone sheet, and after I had pulled it apart and gotten it down to just its single layer, covered it with Mod Podge and let it dry, and that's the result. It's nice and crunchy. I have taken the audio off of this video so you can't hear all the really cool crunchiness of it, but that's one of the fun things about a junk journal is just the textures and the sounds, and it's just really fun to use all of these different supplies. And so I'm going to use a mask and pumpkin pie, Stampin' Up ink color, and one of our blending brushes. I am an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and so a lot of these products that you see me use in the video, I do sell, and I will put a link to my store in the description box. Also, I will have a link to the Megjournal prompts if you are into journaling and you want to use those prompts as well. It's been fun so far. I don't know how much I'll be able to keep up with it once I go back to work. I do teach math here locally, but we'll see what I can do. It would be a fun thing to accomplish in January. What would really be fun is just being able to do videos every day in January. That would be quite a feat. So I took off the plastic coating of the window, and I am going to cut this back out, although that does kind of make an interesting, because you can kind of see through it. It does make it kind of interesting and could be used as a window like that, but I am going to cut it out and add a different piece of clear backing. But because the envelope is so white and you were going to be able to see through the napkin, I decided to stencil it first. And so I didn't bring it up to the camera so you could see it, but you can see that stenciling through the napkin. So at this point, I'm just trimming out that window with some small scissors. I don't know why I didn't grab my Stampin' Up paper snips, but they probably would have worked a little better, although they're quite similar to these tiny Fiskars. Now I'm trying to get that out with my craft knife, and it just doesn't work because I think it was still a little wet from the glue. So back to the scissors we go. And there, all trimmed up. So on my first, so this is packaging from a new die set. I've recently been able to pre-order for our celebration and our mini catalog, which if you watch my first video on the cover for this junk journal, I did explain that I was going to be using the Storybook Friends as kind of a theme for this junk journal, although it will be junky as well, as you can see here. I am going to be using one paper from the 6x6 paper that comes with the suite. But other than that, not too much from the Storybook Friends today. But I still am using the, grabbing my catalog, I lost my train of thought because I started to do something else. So on my cover, I did these little pieces, this collage of text, different text from different books, and actually some of it is from old Stampin' Up scrap of paper as well that had some really cool text on it. So I'm using the same technique of just putting these different pieces of text all around. Then we'll trim it up. And I haven't decided how to use this element in my journal yet. So a lot of this video is just kind of playing around with it. And then I think that in the end, I will probably use it as a flip out. So I'll show that to you as we progress with the junk journal. You will be able to see it as I create with it. So I kind of got distracted by looking at these pages in the mini catalog for the, I guess it's called the Storybook Moments suite. I keep referring to it as Storybook Friends, but it's the Storybook Moments suite. And the Storybook Friends is one of the stamp sets. And then the Storybook Friends dies, but the paper is called Storybook Moments. That's the 12 by 12, and Timeless Plaid is the 6 by 6 that I'll be using today to finish up this envelope element. Anyway, if you love Peter Rabbit or gardening, you're going to love this suite. The colors are so romantic and vintagey, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So that's available January 7th in the mini catalog. And on the 7th, you can go to my website, which is linked in the description, where you can take a look at that catalog. But it is kellyrose.stampinup.net, and that's where you can find the catalog, and then also a link to my online store. If you are enjoying this video or you've learned something, I would love for you to give me a thumbs up and also shout out in the comments of what you enjoyed, what you learned, any questions you might have about any of the products that I've used. Now these books, I do know which books they came from, but it kind of doesn't really matter. You just need some interesting text that you know is not going to be risque. Now I do have a French book, and I have no idea what is in the French book, so hopefully I'm not choosing inappropriate words from the French book. But dictionary, an old dictionary is fun to use. And then I have an Edith Holden book, calendar. It's not the actual Edith Holden book, but it's a calendar based off of her art with some of her art used in it. And so I'm using the text from that. I have an old textbook on the government or republic. It says Our Republic or something like that. And that I like. So this is one of the offcuts from creating my cover yesterday from the new Concise British Flora book. And so you'll see that on my cover, pieces of it. And then that plaid paper is from the Storybook Friends suite. I think I mentioned the name of that plaid paper just a moment ago, but let me find it again. Timeless Plaid. And so I'm going to ink up the edges with my blending brush and pecan pie, and I am grabbing out another mask. And I chose this one with the little squares just because I'm using that plaid paper, and I thought that would be some nice coordination. So I'm going to get that glued on there. This is going to be a belly band inside that envelope. So I'm only going to be gluing the very top and bottom of this so I can still slide something behind it. So this paper has had a moment to dry, so I'm coming around with my small scissors to cut off the edge, the overlapping. It probably would have looked good if I had done that first and the text was underneath the napkin. But alas, I did not think of that. I had already had it in my mind to use the napkin, so that's where I started. But perhaps in the future I should think a little more in advance. How am I going to use this? What else am I going to do? Then I wouldn't miss out on those great ideas that you have after the fact. Well, that's going to look really cute, just going through there. And as you see, as the video progresses, I don't stop there and I keep adding things, but that's the fun of doing junk journaling. I feel like I have more freedom when I'm creating for my junk journal than with card making. Maybe because I just want my card making to, let's see, it's the right word. I want it to look more put together, I guess, more designery. Whereas with my junk journal, I can just keep adding to it to my heart's content until I feel like stopping. And the collaging, there's kind of no rules about when you have to stop. So that was crooked in the window, so I needed to straighten it out a bit. But I wasn't able to get the bottom up, so I'm just leaving that with a little bulge. That actually will make it easier to slide things in from behind on the side. So I'm trying to crease that really good so it stays closed. So now let's use some of that napkin for the back. Trim it up. Have any of you made napkins or done any crafts with napkins like this? I should probably do a video on it, although there's a lot of videos out there crafting with napkins. So this would be called, I think, making paper with napkins. Now this particular one is really brittle. So this one I wouldn't be able to like fold and make into anything. But if you add your napkin to something else, like a piece of, what else have I added it to? Baking paper or tissue paper, then it's a little more sturdy. That's a really pretty mask, isn't it? I think that is current. So on this view, you can see the mask coming through the napkin, which is really cool. So the glue I'm using, and which I was using earlier, which I didn't mention, is a matte medium gel, acrylic medium matte gel from US Art Supply. It's not something I sell, but I have a large tube of it that seems to last and last, which is nice. I don't use it that often because most of my crafting here is actually card making. But it's been nice since I've, oh look, upside down-ish. Doesn't really matter though, does it? Did you notice that when I was crafting? That I was going to be doing that upside down? Probably did. So here's some labels that I have made with different stamps of mine. And just have some leftover paper and did a whole bunch of stamping and then cutting out so I would have these labels ready. And then the little number tag is a Tracy Fox label. So you can Google Tracy Fox, and she has an Etsy shop where you can download for just a couple of bucks her digital labels, which I love having for junk journaling. They're super fun. So it's starting to look like a junk journal element now, isn't it? I love the way that collage of text looks. And I will probably do that throughout. So I just reached over to where my elements were, leftover things from stamping. And so this was something that I stamped from a retired stamp set a while ago, and I liked the way that looked on the front. Colors they went nicely together. And the leaf was cut off, so I have to line that up perfectly on the edge to make up for the fact that it's been chopped. Make it look like you intended that. And I like the way that it's probably the same color, and if not, then it's definitely a color that coordinates with that other Stampin' Up paper. Those were definitely Stampin' Up inks, and that edge was pretty white, bright, so I just inked around the edge. So there we have it, finished-ish. From this point, I just kind of am playing around with it. I don't know exactly what I will use and how it will turn out in the end. So this is my box of goodies that I've made that are ready to use. And that's just a piece of 6x6 paper that is also Stampin' Up, and I use the envelope maker. And this is a altered playing card that I believe has napkin on it. Pretty sure that I just decoupaged napkin onto that, and that's it. So just kind of seeing what kind of goodies are in here that I could use. And that looked good, so I might come back to that. I like the way that card looks behind that flower. I am not going to permanently put it down yet, but I am going to go ahead and add a piece of washi tape you'll see here in a minute. And then let's just kind of find a spot for it. How about just right there in the middle until I decide where its forever home will be. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that you will give me a thumbs up if you saw anything that you liked or learned anything. And again, comments are greatly appreciated, and I would love to hear from you.